think user onboarding in Web3 is a big pain. And that's because if users have to onboard a Web3 application or a dApp, they have to install multiple applications and extensions to create a wallet, go through multiple processes to create a wallet, remember seed phrases, and that's a big friction. We at Arcana have a solution for this, and that's our Arcana Auth, which allows users to onboard Web3 applications or dApp without installing any application or extension, going through multiple steps of creating wallet or remembering seed phrases. User can simply create a wallet by using their email address, that is passwordless login mechanism, or any other social login mechanism such as sign in with Google, Twitter, GitHub, Discord, etc. I'm Jobin, developer evangelist at Arcana Network, and today I'm going to show you how you can integrate Arcana's Auth SDK in your project to make user onboarding a breeze. By the way, you can refer our documentation for much more in-depth guide on integration and how you can integrate with other frameworks such as React, Vue, and if you're using the wallet connectors such as Remokit or Wagmi.
So let's jump straight into the integration. The integration involves two steps. The first step, that is a non-coding or a non-programming step, where you have to visit the Arcana's developer dashboard and configure the application based on your needs. Okay, so fire up a browser of your choice. I've opened up Chrome here and type in dashboard.arcana.network. This opens up the Arcana developer dashboard, and you can choose to sign in using passwordless or any social auth. And quickly I'm using okay. So we have logged into the dashboard, Arcana developer dashboard, and this is the view that you get when you log in. So you will see an option to manage applications with monthly active users, estimated cost of your project, and the list of applications or projects that you have configured. So right now I have a demo application that I've created and configured. So I can see the number of users, I can configure it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly create a fresh new application on the dashboard. I'm going to name it as integration. So behind the scenes, the dashboard is configuring the app for you and creating all the things that's necessary. So once that is done, you're welcome with a graphical user interface where a graph shows the number of users there. When you scroll down, you can see tutorials on how you can configure various authentication for your users. Okay, so the most important thing that you would see right now on the dashboard is the client ID. Okay, this is one of the most important things. This is an app identifier. This is the identifier that we are going to use while we code or build the project so that we can connect with the dashboard, connect with the SDK. Okay. On top of that, you also will have an option to switch networks. Right now, we are by default on testnet. You can switch to mainnet later on. Okay. On the left side, on the left panel, you can see different options to configure your application. Right now, you have an option to configure the branding. You can upload your logo. You can choose what mode you want, light mode, dark mode you want. And you also can see a preview of how your wallet would look like on a desktop or mobile. On the left side panel, you have another option to configure various authentication solutions that you want your users to see when they use your project or your application or website. Right now, we have Google, Twitch, Discord, GitHub, Twitter, and Cognito. You basically can get the client ID by visiting the following platforms and paste it here to enable that social authentication. And the redirect URI, which you have to configure on that platform, is given on the top right corner, which starts with verify.beta.arcana.network. Right now, we are not going to configure this, but we are going to do that in the later stage of integration. And the last and final thing that we can configure on the left side is the Arcana wallet, where you can decide or you can restrict your wallet from opening on any other websites. Like you can block it from opening on any other links, websites, or domain. You can specifically allow it only to open or restrict it to open in your particular domain itself. Okay, so you can just type in your domain of the project and will only open in your project domain. Okay, so that's all the configuration that you can do with the developer dashboard. Right now, once you have created the app on the dashboard, passwordless login is already set and ready to be used. So let's proceed to the next step, that is building or coding the project. Okay, so yeah, so the next step that we're going to do is fire up a IDE of your choice. I've opened up VS Code here. So what I'm going to do is I'll quickly create a new folder. I'll name it as integration. Integration Arcana Auth. I've created the folder. Open it. Yeah. So the folder is empty. We need a couple of files in this. We are going to be building on pure vanilla JavaScript so that we can follow this and use the same method to build on various other libraries or frameworks. You can follow this to build on React, Vue.js, or anything else. Okay. So I'll just start with the basics. I'll just create an index.html file. And I'll create a JavaScript file for the script. And a CSS file for styling it. Style.css. Yeah. So the first thing that we are going to do is we need to install Arcana's Authentication SDK, or the package that will enable us to use the authentication service as well as the wallet. Okay. So how can we install that? So just show Arcana SDK. This is the Arcana Auth SDK package that you have to install if you're building on JavaScript. And if you are building on anything else like React, then you have a React wrapper. You can install that specific package. And if you are using any wallet connectors like Wagmi and RainbowKit, then you can also follow that. Okay. So I'm going to just install the Auth SDK package. I'll come back to IDE and open up the terminal. And I'll install the Arcana Auth SDK package. Okay, so after the package has been installed, the first thing that we're going to do is get straight into index.js and import the auth provider from the Arcana Auth SDK package that we have installed. For that, type in const auth provider and go to window Arcana. Okay. So the next thing that we're going to do is we are going to declare a provider variable. Okay. And then create an instance of the auth and pass the client ID that we get from the dashboard to it. And whatever the result that we get from this instance that we have created, we'll store the result in a variable called as auth. Okay, so let's create a variable called as auth. And we'll just create a new instance of auth provider and pass the client ID as the parameter. Okay, so for the client ID, let's quickly switch to the developer dashboard. On the top right corner, you will see the client ID that starts with *test or something like that. Just copy that and paste it inside the auth provider. Okay, so we have created an instance. Now what we are going to do is we are going to define what actually the provider is with the help of this newly created instance. So provider is equal to auth.provider. Okay. So we have created the instance, we have defined what actually the provider is. The next thing that we need to do is initialize the auth SDK. So for initializing, the initialization should happen when the dApp or the website loads. So for that, we are going to type window.onload async. So it's an async function. Okay, and inside this, we are going to do the initialization. For that, await auth init. We're going to call this function. And once the initialization is done, we want the user to see a message on the console. So we'll type console.log auth initialization complete. Okay, so after the initialization is complete, the program will throw a message in the console log that the initialization is complete. Okay, now that this is done, what the next thing we're going to do is we're going to write the first function in our integration demo video. That is a function that allows the user to connect their wallet or sign up or log in using the wallet into the website or the dApp. And for that, we are going to type a function and create a function, async function called as connect. Okay, and we are gonna call this function called as auth.connect. Okay, so we have called this connect function from the auth SDK, and we are storing the result inside the provider. Okay, and once the process of connection is complete, we want the user to see a message. So we'll create quickly an alert that the user has connected or successfully logged in. Successfully connected. Okay, so we have wrote our first function. The next thing that we want to do is we also want to create set hooks and listen to this connect function. So for that, what we are going to do is we are going to create a function called as set hooks. This will basically listen to this will listen to the connect function and pass the parameters. And throw a message in the console log showing what is the type. The type here actually is connect. And the parameters are parameters. Yes, done. And we want the execution to set the hooks. So we'll just mention set hooks. Yes, it's a function. Just calling the function. Yeah, set hooks done. Okay. So we have wrote the code. We have created an instance to make sure that before interacting with the auth SDK, you have to create an instance by passing the client ID, then initialize it, and then do whatever the activity or the function you want to do with the auth SDK, like we have did with by creating the connect function. Okay, so we have wrote the JavaScript for this, the logic part for this, but let's write the HTML code for this. Okay. Yeah. So this is how the HTML code looks like. So what I've done is I've created a button, okay, which on click calls the connect function, and this we have three scripts here. Okay, we have added three scripts. The first script is the index.js file itself, okay, that we have imported here. The next thing that we have done is we have added the auth SDK inside the script. So how we can do that is after installing the package, the auth SDK is located inside node modules, inside Arcana, inside the distribution standalone auth.umd.js. This is the file. So we are gonna add this here in the script tag. So we have added that. And last and finally, we have added the ethers.js library also here in the script tag. So you can see here the CDN link to the ethers.js. I'm using ethers 5.2 here, the version 5.2 here. So I've added that here. So how we can actually get this ethers.js link is you can quickly visit the ethers documentation. So I'm here on the docs for ethers 5.2 version, And here you can see the script tag that you can straight away copy paste. Okay, both ES6 and ES3 is there. So I've copied this ES3 and pasted it here. Okay, so we have our HTML also ready. So what we are going to quickly do is, now that our JavaScript logic is present and we have also added the HTML, we'll just quickly go live, fire our browser and check how the integration looks like. So right now on the screen, you can see a white screen with a connect button on the top left corner. I'll just quickly open up the inspect element so that we can also see the messages while the process is happening. I'll just quickly click on connect button. Yes. So right now on the screen, you can actually see when we click on the connect button, the wallet has popped up. Okay, the modal has popped up, and we have the email or the passwordless login option by default available here. On the console log also, you can actually see that the initialization as well as the login is done. So we have created this. Let's quickly do a passwordless login. I'll type in my this opens up a new window. Yes, so we will quickly go and check our email. Yes, so you can actually see here integration, login to integration link. Just click on login. Yes, login successful. We'll return back to our website. Yes. Yeah, so we are seeing a message that the alert message that we have successfully connected. Yes, that's it. Okay. And on the bottom left corner, you can actually see the wallet also. If you click here, the wallet opens up. You can see your address. You can switch networks. You can see your balance, and you can see your NFT assets. You can see your address, network, email ID. You can export your keys, and at the same time, you can see all the transactional activities in the wallet, and you can just close it to minimize the wallet. Okay. So before moving on to the next thing, what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly style this button and the front-end UI so that it becomes easy for you to view and understand. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is quickly style this button. Okay, I'll just add the CSS code for this. Okay, now you can see how the button looks like. The button is in black. Okay, this is the same CSS style we are going to reuse again in the coming functions and buttons. Yeah, so the next function that we are going to do is for direct passwordless login or social logins. Consider you want your user to directly log in using email or social methods without seeing the modal. Okay, I'll show you how the modal looks like. So right now, if you click on connect button, this modal pop-up pops up. So if you don't want the user to see this modal and directly log in, then we have function also for that. So we are going to write that function right now. Okay, so let's jump back to the index.js and write this function, async function. First, we are going to write a function for passwordless login. Passwordless login. Okay, and inside this, we are going to call this function in the Auth SDK that is login with link. And we need to pass the email address as a parameter to this login with link function. So you can store the user email in a variable or in a database and pass that to this function. So I'm going to hard code it here. I'm going to type in my email address. Okay, so I've done that. I've created a function for passwordless login, which allows user to directly log in. So we are going to create a quickly a button for this on the front end. So switching back to the index.html, and we'll create a button. And this button should call the passwordless login function on click. The name passwordless login and save. Now let's switch to the browser and check how this looks like. Okay, so right now you can see a second button which allows you to do passwordless login. And let's open the console log to check whether the initialization has happened. So you can see actually the initialization has happened. So you have to make sure when you make some changes and save it locally, the Auth SDK initialization would take a couple of seconds. So before doing any actions, before clicking any button, ensure that the initialization is complete. Check for that message in the console.log. Okay. So here the initialization is complete. So we are gonna click on passwordless login and check how this works. Yes. So you can see a pop-up, a separate window opens up for a passwordless login. I'll close this and check out my mail inbox. Yes, I have a email here. I'll click to login. Login is successful. Returning back to our website. Yes, our login is successful. We have logged in successfully using passwordless login. That is why you will see the wallet on the bottom right corner. See, you have logged in. If you want, you can also add an alert message that you have logged in successfully using login, or in the console log, you can throw a message. The next thing that we're going to do is we want the users to sign in using social logins in the same way without opening up the modal like we did with the passwordless login. So for that, we need to configure the developer dashboard to support various social logins. So we are going to straight away jump to developer dashboard. And the developer dashboard, on the left panel, you will see a configuration option. Underneath that, you will see the option for social auth. Click there and you will have multiple options to configure. So I'm going to configure the Google login mechanism at this moment. So if you want to know how you can get the client ID to paste here, you have the instructions here. You can click on this hyperlink and it will open up the instructions. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly open up the Google Cloud Console. Okay, and this Cloud Console will allow me to configure this. On the left panel, you will have this credential options. Just click there, and here, after coming here, you can just click on Create Credentials. And I'll click on OAuth client ID. Okay, clicking this, which is the application type. I'll click as web application. I'll name it as integration. Okay, and it is asking for authorized JavaScript origins and redirect URIs. We have the redirect URI, so we can go to the developer dashboard, and on the top, here is a redirect URI called as verify.beta.arcana.network. Just copy that and paste it here. Add it here in the URI and paste it here. Okay, and just create a new OAuth client ID. Yes, so right now you will be seeing client ID, client secret, and all the details. Just copy this client ID, switch back to the developer dashboard, and paste it here and save it. That's it. So we have saved the social auth credentials for Google, and right now we are all set for our project to support social login with Google. Just close the credentials here and switch back to the IDE to code the function for that. Okay, so I'll write a function, a synchronous function called as social login, and inside this we are going to call a function from the SDK, Auth SDK, that is login with social, and inside this you can pass a parameter like which auth mechanism you want to choose. If you want to choose Twitter, Google, Reddit, or Discord, whatever it is, if you want to choose that, you can just mention that here. So I'm going to use Google, so I'll just mention as Google, and that's our function is all set. But I'll just add one additional thing, that is alert, so that we'll see a message on successful login. Logged in successfully using Google, and that's it. Our function is ready. Our alert also is ready. Now we just have to add this function in the front end, so that the user can interact with this function. So I'll just quickly create a new button. And call this function on click, that is social login, and rename this button to Google login or social login, whatever it is. Okay, and save this. Let's switch back to our integration website. You'll see a third option on the website, that is the Google social login button. Okay, you can click here to proceed with the login. But before that, you have to ensure that we have the Auth SDK initialized. So for that, you can just go to the console log and you'll see a couple of messages here. Okay, and you can basically ignore this errors. That's not a problem. So if you click on Google social login, a separate window opens up which allows you to choose your email address. Just click on my email. And yeah, so we'll see alert that we have successfully connected and logged in successfully using Google. Okay, done. So we'll see a wallet on the top bottom corner again. That means we have logged in and we can access the wallet. Cool. So the next thing that we're going to do is, what if you want to fetch the accounts that are connected, or what if you want to know the address of the wallet? So for that, we have two mechanisms by default by the Ethereum methods. One is the ETH accounts and request accounts. Okay, so we are gonna use that and create a function. So let's switch back to the IDE and write a function for that. So first, async function and get accounts. And inside this, we are going to call the provider and pass the method as ETH accounts first and store whatever the results is. The result basically is an array consisting of all the accounts, and we are going to store that in a variable. So first, let's create a variable for accounts and call this provider. And pass the method as ETH underscore accounts. Okay, so this will store all the accounts in an array. And the next thing that we want to do is we want to show all the list of accounts in the console log. So we'll open accounts. And if we want to get the address of the wallet connected, that is the 0th address in the array of accounts, just we'll store that in the from variable. From is equal to accounts, the 0th element. Okay, so we'll write quickly a function for the front-end code for this so that the user can interact with this function. Switch back to index.html and create a button for this. And on click, this will call the get accounts function. Rename the button get accounts and save it. Yes. So now we'll switch back to the website, and you will see a fourth option with the button get accounts. Before clicking that, I'll just ensure that our Auth SDK is initialized by checking the console.log. Console. Yeah. So the Auth SDK has initialized, and now we can click on connect wallet before getting the get accounts. So I'll just quickly click on Google or social login and complete the login process. Yeah, so we see the message that we have logged in successfully, and on the top, on the bottom corner, you can see the wallet also. So now we are good to fetch the accounts. I'll again open the console and click on get accounts. Yes, so here we can see the list of accounts. We have fetched the account. Okay, if you want, you can add this account in the front end. You can display this account in the front end, or show an alert or anything using this. I'll just quickly switch back to the ID and also show you using the different other method, that is ETH request accounts. Just update this and save this. Yes. So right now we have updated the get accounts function with Ethereum's ETH request accounts method. Now once again, we'll check if the Auth SDK is initialized. Yes, the Auth SDK is initialized. Now it's also connected because we have already logged in earlier. So we'll click on the console and open up, and we'll click get accounts again. So again, we see the same thing. We'll get the array of all the accounts that are connected. So just to confirm, you can open up the wallet and you will see the address is 0x4944A, and the same address is what we see here also. Okay. Now that we have accounts, our own account address as well as others' account addresses or wallet addresses, how about we get their public key? Yes. So let's start by first getting our own public key, our self public key. So let's write a function for that. Let's switch back to the ID and create a function called as get my public key. And here we're going to use the Ethereum function, or the Ethereum method called as get encryption public key to obtain the public key. So for that, we need the address of the wallet of the owner, the wallet address of the owner, and that's actually stored here in the from variable. So we're going to use that and get the public key. So first we have to check whether the user has fetched the account address, and if they have fetched, then only allowed to get the public key using the method. Okay, so we are gonna create if loop for that. So if not from, then show a alert that gets accounts first. Okay, or else we can do is call the provider and request through the method and store the results in a variable. Let's create a variable for that called as pk, that is public key, and inside that call this function from provider. Let's request and pass the method as ETH underscore get encryption public key, and as the parameters will pass the from variable, which is the wallet address of the wallet that is connected. Okay, and once that is fetched, we want to store it somewhere. So let's first let's throw it in the console log. And then store it somewhere. Let's create a variable called as public key and store the value inside that. Yes, that's it. So we have the function ready, which allows us to get our own public key using the wallet address that we have stored in from. So for this, let's create a button in the front end. Okay, so that we can call this function. Let's create a new button. And on click, we should call this function that is get my public key, and rename this button as get my public key. let's do one thing. Let's also add an alert. Let's also add an alert which will throw this message. Showing the public key of the wallet that we are trying to fetch. Okay, now let's switch back to our website, and we have this fifth button called as get my public key that will allow us to get the public key. Before that, let's once again check if the Auth SDK has initialized. The Auth SDK is initialized and we are seeing a message successfully connected. We don't have to connect again because we have already got connected. We just had to initialize the Auth SDK. Okay, so now let's check first by filling the get accounts. Okay. Yeah. So we can see that we have got the account and this is the address. Now let's try getting the public key by clicking the get my public key button. Yes. So we'll see a alert with the public key. Yeah. So we have got that also. So this is, you can see the console log also. PKA is stored as this public key. Okay, so this is how we can get your own public key. So what we can do if we want to get somebody else's public key. Okay, so for that also we have a function. So let's switch back to the IDE and write a function for that. Okay, open up index.js and let's create a new function for that. Async function called as get others public key. Okay, and this is very simple. We just have to call the Auth SDK to get the public key, and here we can get the public key using the email address of the user. Okay, but you have to make sure that the user is on your application, they are using your dApp, or else if they are not a part of your application, if they are not using your application, then you will not find a public key for them. So you have to ensure that the user has already onboarded. Okay, so we are gonna call this function await dot get public key. Now let's pass an email address as parameter for which we want to fetch the public key. We pass mine. Yes, and let's throw the public key as an output in the console log. And also show an alert message with this public key. That's it. Proceed. Now let's write a front-end code for this. That is, create a button. And let's add this function, get others public key on click here. And rename the button to get others public key. That's it. Okay. Now let's check how this looks on the front end. Now you can see in the front end that we have on the button, that's the 6 button, get others public key. Before we click, let's check if the Auth SDK has initialized on the console. So the Auth SDK is initialized, that's why you see this message again. And let's click on get this public key and check. Okay, we'll have to wait for a couple of seconds or else we'll see this error. Yes. So once the wallet completely loads up, you will see this alert and we can see that message get others public key. And let's once again open the console and check. By clicking the button, get others public key. Yes. This throws up an object and this object has PK as the public key and also gives an alert. Okay, so this is how we get the public key for others using their email address. But you have to make sure that the user is onboarded or has signed up into your dApp or application to get their public key, or else they will not have a public key assigned to them. The next thing that we're going to do in this integration project is how you can get or request the user's signature. Well, there are various methods for that. We're going to check out a couple of methods commonly used. So one is the ETH signed sign type data. Then there is a personal sign and the ETH sign. There are three of them. ETH sign is deprecated, but it's not advised to use it, but we'll still try that first and then the rest of them. You can choose to use any of this in your project based on your needs. Okay, so let's start with ETH sign method and let's write a method for that in our code. Let's write a function, async function request sign, and first thing that we need to write in this function is we have to check if we have fetched the account or the wallet address that is connected, because we need this wallet address to obtain the or request the signature. Okay, so we are going to check that first. For that, if we're going to create a if loop, check if not from, then we'll show a alert, that is get accounts first. Okay, and after that, what we are going to do is we are going to request the signature using the ETH sign method and store the results in a variable called a signature. So let's declare a variable first, signature, and inside that we are going to call this function provider.request and pass the method as ETH underscore sign, and parameters will be the wallet address, the from that's stored in the from variable, and a message. Requesting for user's signature. That's going to be the message I'm passing. And once that is obtained, we have fetched the signature, we are requested and we obtained the signature, we'll throw that in the console, typing in console.log signature, and also show alert with the signature. Yes, that's it. So let's write the front end code for this. Let's create a button. And this button should call this request sign function. On click, rename the button to request signature. That's it. So we have done that. Let's check how this looks on the front end side. Coming back to the integration website, you can see a seventh button, that is the request signature button. But before proceeding, let's once again check if the Auth SDK has initialized. Okay, SDK is initialized. Now let's close this and first get the accounts and check if first, yes, we fetch the accounts and we can see that in the console. Okay, once the accounts are fetched, the account value is stored in the from variable. So now we are ready to request signature. So I'm gonna click on the request signature button. So this pops up a signature request message in the wallet, and you can see the parameters that we have passed and the message that requesting for user signature. And I'll approve this, and on approval, I'll see an alert with the signature that we have fetched. Okay, so this is how you fetch signature using ETH sign method. Okay. Now, if you want to request the personal signature from the user, then we only need to tweak the code a bit. That is, come back to the code, and just we have to change the method from ETH underscore sign to personal sign. The parameters are same for this method also, and just save it. I'll just come back to the index.html and change the name of the button to request personal signature and save it. Yes. Now coming back to the website, we can see the code has been updated and we can see a button request personal signature before interacting. Let's ensure that the SDK is initialized. Yeah, so the SDK is initialized, and let's click on get accounts first. And you can see in the console, after clicking get accounts, we have fetched the account, and this is the account address. Now we are good to request the personal signature. Let's close the console and click on request personal signature. And this opens up a signing message, a personal signature message, and we can click on approve. And here is the signature that we have obtained that we see in this alert. Okay, so this is how we can request for personal signature. Now, what if we want to request type the signature? That is one other mechanism. So you can, I've showed you here, 3 different methods. We tried out ETH underscore sign. We tried out personal sign. Now let's try out ETH type the sign. Okay, so for this, let's return back to our IDE and tweak the code. So for this, we just have to change the method from personal sign to ETH underscore sign typed data underscore version 4. Okay. We also have to make a change in terms of parameters, because this method sign type data takes methods in a different way. It's not like the ETH sign or personal sign. The message that we pass in parameters is taken in the JSON format, so we need to accordingly pass the data. So we are gonna do one thing. We will create a variable for this. We'll create a variable message parameters. Okay, and we're gonna pass this. So how this variable should be created and how the data should be passed inside like that variable, I'll show you that. So in this website, you can see actually how it looks like. I'll show you a sample. So the user will see a message like this, unlike what the user sees in ETH sign or personal sign. The user will see a message in this format, and for this, the code needs to be written like this. Okay. You can see there's a constant, a variable called as message parameters, okay, in which the data is passed, JSON format. The same way, we need to pass the data. Okay, what are the message we want to convey to the user? So I'll just copy this code and I've tweaked it a bit. Okay, you can do the same. You can refer to this and write the message parameters for your request for the signature. Okay, and I'll paste it within the function. Yes, that's it. So this is how it looks like. Okay, the message parameters for the message. And our code for the JavaScript is done. I'll just quickly update the front end also. So change the button name to request type the signature and save it. Now let's check how this also looks in the front and on the website. Yeah, so you can see the button has updated to request type signature. I'll just ensure that the SDK has initialized before interacting with it. Let's check in the console. So the SDK is initialized. Okay, and the wallet also has appeared in the bottom corner. Now first let's get the accounts, fetch the accounts, because we need accounts to get the type signature. So just click on get accounts. I've got the accounts. Okay, now let's request for the type signature. I'll just quickly close the console, and yes. So you can see how clicking on the button request type signature has popped up the wallet and is requesting us assigning the message, which will basically provide the signature, and this is the message. Okay, I'll just approve. Yes, and the request is approved, and you can see signature that we have obtained in the alert option. Okay. This is how we can obtain typed signature from the user. So we basically obtained three different types of signature using three different methods. One is the sign, the other one is the personal signature, and the last one is typed signature. So based on your needs, you can configure accordingly and write the code and use Arcana's auth and wallet to fetch users' signature. So the next thing that we're going to do is we are going to do send transactions using Arcana Vault. So for that, we're going to write a function, and we'll be using Ethereum's ETH send transaction method to make this possible. Okay, so let's write the function in our IDE. Asynchronous function as all, and let's name it as transaction. And we could do this only when we have the from address or our wallet address that will be used from which the token will be sent to another account. So we need to know the wallet address of our own account. That's in the from variable. So we have to ensure that before proceeding, we have that with us, or else get the accounts first. Okay. So for that, we'll create a if loop to check that, like we did in the past with other functions, or else the user will see a alert that get accounts first. Okay, and then what we are going to do is we are going to call this Ethereum method, use this Ethereum method called as ETH send transaction, and pass some parameters to it, and whatever the output is basically a hash that will store in a variable, and the variable will be called as hash here. So let's declare the variable and call the method. Okay, wait, and we are going to make a request, and inside this will pass the method that is ETH underscore send transaction, and we also will pass certain parameters. Okay, so this parameters will basically be from the address from which the token needs to go, that's our wallet address, and the gas price that we set for this is, and the to account, and then the value that we're going to transfer. I'll just set that to 0x1. Okay, we don't have a to address, so what I'm going to do is for this demo, I'll just quickly go and get an address from MetaMask of one of my accounts. This is my account. It's on Polygon. Let's copy the address. That's 0.9 static. You can order this. Okay, and I'm going to paste it into within quotes. Yes, that's it. Okay, and then what we are going to do is once this transaction is completed, okay, whatever the value is, the output is the hash stored in the const or the variable hash, and we want to throw that in console, or we can show that to the user as an alert. So I'm just going to quickly create an alert with this hash as an output. Okay, that's done. So our send transaction function is ready to update the front end accordingly. So I'm going to create a button for this. And this button will call the send transaction function. I'll rename this button send transaction. and save. Yes, that's it. So now let's go and check it on our website. Yes, you can see on the button that has that's visible, that's been updated, and that's a send transaction. Before interacting, as usual, let me go and check with the console log whether the SDK is initialized. Okay, the SDK is initialized, and we'll just go and check. Fetch the accounts by clicking the Get Accounts button. Okay, and see the console has shown us the accounts. So we are now good to do the send transaction. I'll just open up the wallet, and you can see right now we are on Ethereum mainnet. We don't have any balance here, so I have some tokens in my Polygon Mumbai testnet. So I'll just switch the network. You can see I have $1 or one Matic as a token balance. So this is what I'm going to send to the other address uh, in my MetaMask. Okay, this is the MetaMask account to which I'm going to send this token. So for that, I'll just close this word. I'm going to click on send transaction, and this pops up a send transaction message on a wallet. We can choose what speed we want. We can set slow, standard, fast, whatever it is. According to the gas fees will fluctuate or change. We have options to change things in advance. Okay, and you can see all those parameters that we have passed here. Okay, I'm going to approve this. Yes, and that's successful. Quickly go and check. Yes, each send transaction execution completed, and the alert shows the hash of the transaction. Okay, and now you can see the balance has reduced to 0.99 Matic, and that's updated here. So you can see that's visible here. So basically, we have sent some tokens from our Arcana wallet to the wallet that's on MetaMask. So same way, you can use the send transaction to send tokens from any wallet. Okay, by using this ETH send transaction method. The next thing that we're going to do is we are going to sign transactions using the Arcana wallet. So how can we do that? So for that, we are going to use the Ethereum method ETH sign transaction. Okay, and we are going to write a function using that. So let's jump to the ID and write a function, async function called as sign transaction. And inside this, the same way we did with the send transaction, we are going to check using if loop whether the accounts have been fetched or not, and if the from variable is there or not. Okay, so if not, then send an alert get accounts first. And then what you're going to do is we are going to call the Ethereum method, that is ETH sign transaction, and pass all the necessary parameters, and whatever the output is, we're going to store that inside a variable. And for that, we're going to create a variable first that's called as site nature form for that, and just call this function await provider dot request, and inside that we'll pass the method that we are going to use, that is ETH underscore sign transaction. Okay, and then we'll pass the parameters, that is the first parameter that we're going to pass is the from address, or the address of the wallet. And then we are going to set the gas price. We'll set that to 0. And then the to address. And finally, the value that we want to sign. That is, let me just set that as x1. Okay. So I haven't added the to address here yet. So I'll just quickly get an address from one of my other wallets, that is on this MetaMask wallet. I'll just copy an address and paste it here within quotes. Yes. So once this is done, we want the user to see the output that the transaction is successful, and the output, yes. So that's done. We have created the function that allows users to sign transaction. Now let's update the same in the front end using HTML code. Let's create a button, and on click, this should call the sign transaction function. We rename the button to sign transaction. Yes, so we have done the coding for this. Let's check how this looks on the website. Yeah, the website, you can see a new button that has popped up. That's the sign transaction button. Okay, and what I'm going to do is, I'll check how if the Auth SDK is initialized. Yeah, the Auth SDK is initialized. That's why you saw the message successfully connected. And in the console log also, you can see that's initialized. Let me fetch accounts by clicking get accounts button. Yeah, so we have fetched accounts also. Is the account address. So we have got the from variable. Now we are good to sign transaction. So let's click on sign transaction. It will pop up. Yes, that pops up the Arcana wallet, and it shows the parameters here, and we can reject or approve the transaction. I'll approve it, and on approval, I see the output. Yes, this is how we send the transaction using Arcana wallet. The next thing that we are going to do will improve the UX of your application. So consider your application is on a different chain, and that chain isn't available in the wallet. So in a typical scenario like this, the user manually adds the chain details and adds the chain. So that actually is a friction. So we can reduce that. And for that, I'm going to show you what we can do by writing a code for that. We're going to programmatically add the chain. Okay. So for that, let's jump straight into the IDE and write a function for that. A function to add chains. Okay. Add a chain that is not available in the wallet. Okay. So we'll write a asynchronous function called as add chain. And what here we are going to do is we are going to call a method called as wallet add Ethereum chain. Okay, so we are going to call and pass all the necessary parameters to this method, and whatever the result is, we are going to store that in a variable called as response. So let's create a variable called as response first, declare it. Okay, and then call this function. And then create method and pass the method as wallet add Ethereum chain. Okay. And then next thing that we're going to do is we are going to pass a couple of parameters to this. Okay. The parameters will be first the chain ID of the chain that you want to add first. So I'll add a chain that is 0x64. I can add whatever you want. I'm going to add the chain name next as the parameter. Name it as Ethereum. The next parameter that we're going to pass is block explorer URLs. You can actually pass your multiple block explorer URLs. So I'll pass explorer URL. Okay. And the next parameter that we're going to pass is the RPC URLs. Pass RPC URL here. And then the native currency, the token that we use in this chain. That is what we are going to pass as the next parameter. And that's it. So we have passed all the necessary parameters. We have passed a chain ID, a chain name, block explorer URLs, RPC URLs, native currency, that is basically the token that we are using at symbol. Okay, and the next thing that we are gonna do is finally print out the response after this method has been called and successfully executed. Okay, so we'll print out the response that we get here as an alert. Okay, that's it. So we have created a function that allows you to programmatically add chain to improve the user experience. Okay, so let's add the front-end code for this in the HTML. Quickly create a button and call this add chain function. Rename this button to add chain. Yes. So we have done the coding part for adding chain. Now let's switch to the browser and look how it looks on the website. Okay, so you can see a new button that is add chain. Okay, before clicking on this, I'll just ensure that the SDK is initialized. Yeah, so the SDK is initialized. Now I'll just go and click on add chain. Okay, so when I click on add chain button, it pops up the wallet and it shows all the parameters of the new chain so that this chain can be added. I'll approve it and you can see a message added network Ethereum. Okay, that is the alert, that is the response that we have got, and the new network has been added. Okay, so you can see the custom network here. You can see right now that we are on Ethereum mainnet network, not on the custom chain that we added, the Ethereum one, the third one. We are not on that. That is because we haven't switched the chain. So typically in a wallet, if the user wants to switch a chain, the user has to manually go to the wallet and switch the chain. And that also again is a friction point that reduces the user experience. So if you want the user to automatically switch chains, or you want to programmatically switch the chains, then you can do that. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to write the code for that and do that in Arcana Auth. Okay, so let's jump back to our IDE and write the function for that. Okay. So this also is a asynchronous function called as switch chain, and this function basically uses a method called as switch Ethereum chain, wallet switch Ethereum chain. So it takes a parameter that is the chain ID to which you want to switch. Okay, so we are going to use that method here, and whatever the response is, we are going to store that in a variable called as response. So first, let's declare a variable called as, sorry, not a variable, constant called as response. And inside that, let's pass a method wallet underscore switch Ethereum chain. And here we'll pass the parameters, and the parameter that we need to pass basically is the chain ID. The chain ID is, we'll pass the same chain ID that of the chain that we added earlier, that is 0x64. Okay, so that we can switch from our current chain to the chain that we have added. So 0x64, And that's it. Then we can do one thing, that is we can show the alert that we have switched the chain. So let's add a response, add response as an alert. Yeah, and that's it. Save. So what we can do now is we'll add the same function as a button in the front end using HTML. And this should call the switch chain function on click. And I'll rename the button to switch chain. Yes, and that's it. So we have wrote the code for programmatically switching chains, and let's check that out on our website. So you can see a new button that has arrived after we made changes in the code, that is switch chain. So before I'll switch the chain or interact with this, let me once again check if the SDK is initialized. Yeah, so the SDK is initialized. Now I'll go and click on switch chain. So clicking on switch chain opens up the wallet again with an option to switch chain to the chain ID 0x64, and I'll approve it. And you see an alert that the chain has changed to Ethereum, and we'll confirm that in the wallet. Yes. Here you can see that we are right now on the network Ethereum, the chain that we had added, the custom chain that we had added. Okay. So this is how you programmatically switch chains to make the user experience better. So if you want the user to add a custom token into the wallet so that they can track it, usually the user does that by opening up the wallet and adding the token, custom token, by adding, passing its contract address, symbol, and the decimal. Okay, that's how you do it. Or you can search here and add tokens that are available here. Okay, but what if you want the user to automatically add the relevant token or programmatically add a token? How we can do that? So I'm going to show that today using the Arcana Auth. So let's quickly switch back to our ID and write a function for that. So we can write a asynchronous function called as add token. And the first thing that we are going to do is we will use a method called as wallet watch asset that allows us to add tokens, and the parameters that we need to pass to this method are basically the parameters that we pass when we add token using the UI in the wallet, such as the contract address of the token, the decimals, and the symbol. Okay, so we're going to pass the same parameters also here. So let's call the method and pass that. And whatever the response we are getting, we are going to store that response in a constant. So let's first declare a constant called as response. And inside this, let's pass the method. Method is wallet watch asset. And then what we're going to do next is pass parameters. The first parameter that we're going to pass is the type of the token that we are trying to add, that is ERC20. The next thing that we are going to pass is options. Options, first thing will be the address, that the smart contract address. So I'll pass a dummy contract address here. You can pass the contract address of the token that you want to add. And then finally, the symbol of the token that you want to add. I'll name it as dummy, so DMY. And then the decimals. At last, the symbol, the image for the token. Okay, that is what we're going to pass last. So I'll just quickly pass in a dummy URL. And that's it. So we have created a function that allows to add tokens programmatically using the method wallet watch asset. Okay, and it takes the type and the options as parameters. The options contain the contract address, the symbol, decimals, and image. Okay, so we haven't declared this contract address. So let's quickly declare that to here inside the function contract address, and that's it. Yeah, and we'll add an alert on successfully adding a token and show the response to the user. Yes, so that's it. So next what we are going to do is we are going to update the same in the front end using HTML. So let's create a button for that. The button on click will call the function add token, and let's rename the button to add token. That's it. So let's look how the changes look on the website that we deployed. Yeah, and you can see a new button has popped up, that's add token. And before interacting, let me check if the SDK has initialized or not. Yeah, the SDK is initialized. So let's interact with the button, that is click on the add token button. So the add token button has popped up this sign a message option in the wallet. Okay, so we'll see that these are the parameters that we have passed, and this is the token that we are going to add. I'll approve it, and on approving it successfully, we'll see a message that token added successfully. Okay, now you can see in the tokens list that there is a new token called as DMY. We have performed almost all the actions that we would usually do with a wallet, such as getting accounts, doing transactions, signing, switching, and adding chains, adding tokens, everything. Okay. Now, if the user wants to log out, okay, of the log out from the website or the dApp, how can we do that? So we can usually do that by clicking on the wallet and clicking on the user icon and clicking the logout button. So that is possible. But what if you want the user to log out programmatically? You want to add a button for that in your website, then you can do that also. So I'm going to show you how we can do that. So let's write a function for that in our code. So it's very simple. Let's create a asynchronous function called as logout, and this function basically calls auth logout from the SDK, and on successfully logging out shows a message to the user that user logged out. Okay, and that's it. This is the small function that we have created so that the user can log out, and we are going to update the same in the front end. Create a button for logging out, and on click this should call the logout function, and we'll rename this button to log out. That's it. Okay, let's check out how this looks on the website. Yeah, so you can see a new button has popped up, that's the logout button. Let's check if the SDK has initialized before interacting with the button. Now that the SDK is initialized, let's try clicking on. Yeah, so you can see alert that user has logged out, and the wallet also disappears from the bottom right corner. And that's how the user can log out using a button if you add this button to your website or your dApp.